Ron used to say, opportunities are like a cup of tea. They stay warm only for a very little while. So when you have a great opportunity, you have to jump on it straight away. You can't wait because you may lose it forever. And I'm sure that you had situations like this in your life. I know that in my life, I had many situations like this. Many times I would see an opportunity and I would say to myself, you know what, I don't think I'm ready. I think I need to learn more. I think I need to wait more. I need to get more resources. And I would simply procrastinate. And then the next thing you know, the opportunity is gone. It's gone forever. And it's a very terrible feeling when you look in the mirror, knowing that you could have been greater, knowing that you could have taken certain actions, but you've never done it because something was stopping you. That fear, okay, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, maybe even the fear of success. Not knowing how people will react to you if you accomplish something greater in life. So I really encourage you to embrace all opportunities right away, okay? Taking even small actions straight away whenever you see something. Because the worst thing in life is to live and regret. So in this video, I'm going to share with you a very quick story that happened to me many years ago, and it was extremely powerful. It totally changed the way I perceive the world, okay? Now, a couple of years ago, I saw videos made by this guy called Greg Plitt. Now, Greg Plitt was a very famous fitness model. He was an army ranger. He had an online business making millions of dollars and helping tens of thousands of people at the same time. He helped a ton of people lose weight, gain weight, basically transform their physical bodies, but also their mental health, right? He made people more positive, more motivated. He gave people so much inspiration, including myself. I would watch his videos and I would get really inspired. You know, sometimes I didn't have the energy in the morning to go to the gym. I didn't have the energy to go for that run. I didn't feel like writing that essay, but then I would watch his videos and I would get pumped up. I would feel like, you know what? I don't want to miss the day, okay? Our time is limited. Your life is ending 1 minute at a time. You can't waste it. You have to embrace every single opportunity. So I wanted to meet this guy. I wanted to meet Greg. I wanted to fly to Miami, talk to him, shake his hand and say, hey man, thank you so much. You really impacted my life and you changed the lives of thousands of people around the world. I really respect you for that. But for some reason, I've never taken that action. For some reason, you know, I didn't feel ready. I looked at myself in the mirror and I said to myself, okay, look at yourself. You're trying to build a business, but you're not making too much money right now. You're not known. You don't have your personal brand. And look at this guy, Greg Plitt. He's making millions of dollars, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people around the world love this guy. Why would he want to talk to you, okay? What's in it for him? So I rationalized to myself that before I talk to a person like this, of that stature, I need to build up my personal brand. I need to make more money. I need to get more success. So I rationalized, you know what? I need to work on my personal brand. I need to get more clients. I have to make more money. And I procrastinated. So within a few years, I managed to build up my business. I got tens of thousands of clients on Udemy. I built up a couple of other things. I got a little bit of success. I started making really decent money while traveling the world. And at one point, I said to myself, you know what? I think I'm ready. I think now I can fly over to Miami, meet him, talk to him, maybe even shoot some videos together. And then one day I woke up in the morning and I got the news. Greg Plitt was dead, okay? He was, I think, 38 years old when he died. A young guy, okay? He had so many opportunities ahead of him and he had a tragic accident. Now, at that moment, something hit me. I realized, holy shit, I lost an opportunity forever and such a great human being died, okay? He literally changed the lives of thousands of people. And I kept thinking to myself, if he only had 10 more years, 20 more years, even 1 more year of living, he could have changed the lives of so many more people, okay, because his content was tremendous. And by the way, if you don't know Greg Plitt, check him out, especially if you are into fitness, if you like to go to the gym, if you like extreme sports, if you are into, you know, this concept of fighting with yourself every single day and pushing your limitations, make sure that you check out his videos. But I kept saying to myself, wow, he had so much value to offer to the world, so much more, okay? He offered a ton of value, but if he had a little bit more time on this planet, he could have offered so much more value. He could have been the next Tony Robbins, okay, impacting the lives of tens of millions of people. But now, the opportunity is gone. And at the same time, my opportunity is gone to meet him, to say, thank you, man. I really appreciate your work. And this situation really impacted my way of thinking. It gave me this feeling of urgency, of scarcity, okay? That the time is really going so fast that you never know what's gonna happen. That, you talk to somebody today and they may be gone tomorrow. That you see that opportunity now and you say to yourself, well, it's gonna last forever. And the next thing you know, boom, it's gone, it disappeared. That maybe you see that beautiful girl, you want to talk to her, but then she's gone and maybe she could have been your wife. You never know because you've never taken that step, okay? So if you don't embrace your opportunities, you will never find out what could have happened. And the worst thing to do in life, the worst thing to happen to you is to live in regret. When later on in life, you look in the mirror, you look at your face and you realize, you know what? You've been so scared. You haven't taken that action. You haven't taken that massive step. And right now, what do you have? What do you see? You see a coward, okay? And you could have been a warrior. You could have taken all of those opportunities, but now you have to live in regret. And this is the last thing you want to happen in your life. And that one situation made me think. So right now in my life, whenever I see an opportunity, I still feel some type of fear, anxiety. Sometimes, honestly, sometimes I scared shitless. When I see massive opportunities, I look at them and I'm like, I kind of want to do it, but it's kind of scary. But you know what? I remember that story with Greg Plitt and I say to myself, if I don't do it right now, I may never ever do it again. For example, I skydived in Dubai recently. I was afraid of skydiving. I didn't really want to jump from a plane. I mean, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? You just go to a plane, you climb 10,000 feet and then you have to jump from it. Pretty crazy, pretty scary, but I did it. And it was one of the best things in my life. And now I want to get my license. I want to jump on my own. But it's one of those things, pushing yourself on an everyday basis that I learned from that one situation. So I would like to invite you to think about your life in the context of this video. Think about all of those opportunities you've missed because of some weird fear, like some dumb fear of rejection, of failure, of all of those things that don't really matter. Think about all of the pain, think about all of the regrets, and make a conscious decision that you will never live like this again. And when an opportunity shows up, you will push yourself and you will push through that fear and you will literally smash your comfort zone, because the reality is that, my friends, the magic happens beyond your comfort zone. Okay, this is the truth. In this video, I'm gonna give you several tips for having better conversations. So many people struggle with having conversations. There are many individuals who struggle with coming up with different topics. And you probably had situations in your life when you were talking to someone and then at one point you reached that wall and you didn't know what to say, they didn't know what to say, and there's this really awkward silence. There is something that you can do in order to avoid those types of situations, and it's about creating multiple threads. So essentially, when you're talking to someone, instead of starting just one topic and delving deep into that topic, at the beginning of the conversation, start several topics. So ask a question, then jump into something else. And then when you start several conversational threads, you can delve deep into one of them. But if you get stuck for some reason, when it starts getting awkward or you have that silence, you can always jump between those conversational threads. So you kind of protect yourself from getting into a situation where you are stuck in one topic and you just feel so awkward, you don't know what to say, right? So you may be thinking, well, it makes sense, but it's pretty tough for me to come up with different conversational topics. I really struggle to talk to people and to find that common ground, to find the common interests, and to actually talk to them in an engaging way. So what I recommend you to do is to take a piece of paper or open a Word document and every single day jot down some of the potential topics you could be talking about. So it could be something that you saw in television, maybe you saw some interesting news, or perhaps you've been reading that science magazine and you read about something really interesting. Jot all of those things down and keep adding new topics to the list every single day. So when you are about to enter any social gathering, whether it's a networking event or you're simply going to a pub, take that list of topics and read it a couple of times. Refresh those topics in your mind. And the reason is that when you enter that social gathering and you are talking to someone, you will have many of those topics under your sleeve, right? So essentially, when you feel like you may get stuck soon, you will be able to come up with many different topics just because you refreshed your mind with all of those ideas you've jotted down before. So even though this technique is very simple, it's gonna definitely help you, especially if you struggle with starting conversations with people and if you find it difficult to come up with different conversational topics. And the great thing is that when you do it often, you will essentially develop that muscle, right? And you become better and better with coming up with various conversational topics. So eventually you will not even need a list because it's just going to become a part of your nature. Let's talk a little bit about pauses. Now, many people are afraid of that uncomfortable silence, but what you need to realize is that silence is only uncomfortable when you make it so. So what do I mean by this? Well, essentially, pauses can be very powerful if you use them in the right way. So let's say that you are talking about something really important, and when you pause for a few seconds, it's actually not awkward, but you emphasize the point. You put more emphasis on it and you make it seem more important. So when you're talking to someone, they are more likely to pay more attention after your pause because it suggests that you will be talking about something important or you've just finished talking about something important. So pauses can be used to your advantage, and actually many introverts find it difficult to talk and talk and talk, and they learned how to use pauses to their advantage. So make sure that when there is that silence, it doesn't seem like it's because you don't have anything to say, but instead make it look as if you did it on purpose, just to put more emphasis on your point. And finally, let's speak a little bit about compliments, because I believe that compliments are very powerful. Now, when you think about it, only confident and charismatic people give compliments. I mean, if you don't have confidence, if you don't have charisma and self-esteem, you will probably not give compliments to people because, you know, it's just too uncomfortable, right? So I believe that you should embrace the power of compliments. Now, when I say compliments, I don't mean, you know, walk up to people of the opposite sex and telling them, you know what, you look amazing today, you look beautiful today. This is not what I'm saying. When I say compliments, I mean notice small, specific things about people you talk to. So for example, let's say that you are talking to your potential business partner, you just met somebody at a networking event and they have a really nice watch. Well, you can notice that, oh wow, that's a really great watch. Or when you're talking to someone and they have really great level of energy, say it, verbalize it, say, oh wow, I really love your energy, you are very positive. So notice those small things about other people, but make sure that you make it specific. So it's not enough to simply say, oh wow, you look great today. Or, oh wow, you look amazing. No, it will not work because essentially anybody can say it and it doesn't seem very genuine. On the other hand, if you make your compliment very specific and you make it actually very genuine, you notice something genuinely about that person and then you verbalize it, you will get so many great benefits because first of all, you will make that person's day. You may not know about it, but probably they will be thinking about it for the rest of the day, maybe even for a few days. Oh, wow, that was a great compliment. And also, you will make yourself look and feel more confident and charismatic. So it's a win-win situation, and you should simply do it. So embrace the power of compliments. So, managing your conversations is definitely a topic we could talk about for hours and hours. But I really hope that this video gave you some great food for thought and some strategies that you can implement straight away in order to trigger some positive results in your social life. So please post the discussion, let me know what you think, and if I forgot about anything, please let us know. In this video, I would like to talk to you about those small bad things happening to you and how you should control your emotions. Because when you really think about it, many of us freak out in today's world, right? That's why before I said that we are getting soft as human beings because, you know, there's so many really, really bad things that could potentially happen. But it's funny to see that, you know, when something as small as breaking a plate, right, or being late for a bus happens to you, it's really easy to get totally freaked out and to ruin your day because of that, you know, influx of negative emotions. So Joe Sen actually puts it very well. Joe Sen actually is his full name. He wrote the book called Spartan Up, and he's the founder of the Spartan race, one of the toughest races in the world. So I have a small paragraph written here, and he talks about that weird notion of not being able to respond to small adversity and the sense of entitlement that many of us experience. So he says that, today's world, in our lives, very often we overreact to small bad things. So he says, oh my God, the kids are screaming, the bag of groceries broke, what a horrible day. Today is a fucking disaster. And then he says, disaster? We have no idea what the fucking disaster is. Many people feel unnecessarily entitled to things they have no business feeling entitled to, like fancy cars and consumer electronics and other luxuries. It's unfortunate, but that's how our society has evolved. So it's pretty interesting. He talks more about it in the book, but he basically says that as humans, we are very weak, right? We are soft. And we have this sense of entitlement. We almost feel like everything has to go well in our lives. And when something doesn't go according to our manual that we have in our heads, we totally freak out. And look, I had those situations many times. I still experience them. For example, today we had a small situation with the camera. Turns out that the files that we recorded yesterday got pretty much, well, they are not deleted, but basically something happened to them, they are corrupted, we can't use them, we will have to film all of those videos again. Obviously my first response is getting pissed off because we wasted a few hours of work, but then I stopped and I reflected on the situation and I realized that there is something good that can come out of it, because as I'm filming those videos again later on, I'll probably make them even better, right? Because I had a chance to practice them. So I feel like whenever something bad happens to you, right, especially when it's something small, something that's not significant, instead of going into that emotional response and getting all negative about it and all bummed out about it, it's important just to stop, all right? You got to pause, take a few deep breaths, and just reflect and just objectively look at the situation, right? Don't let your emotions come into play. Don't let them ride the shotgun, right? You gotta be in charge, you gotta be in control. So as you stop, as you pause and reflect on the situation, and you objectively try to assess what's happening, in most cases you realize that there is nothing to worry about. There is nothing to get pissed off about. It could have been worse. I mean, when some of the bad things happen to you, usually the situation could have been way worse. And once you look at life in this way, everything becomes better, right? It's easier to keep that positive outlook and to keep moving forward. So anyway, just a short video I wanted to make, but I feel like many of us, underestimate the ability to control your emotions when bad things happen. So think about this, and next time when you have one of those situations where you feel like losing composure, just stop, just pause for a moment. Reflect, give yourself a few seconds to assess the situation, and you'll realize that it's not as bad as it may have seemed to be, all right? In this video, I'm going to talk to you about your comfort zone. But actually, before I get started, I'd like to share with you one of my personal stories. So I think it was like 2 years ago, I went to Sri Lanka with my brother for filming, actually. And, I had some experience with surfing. I was surfing some decent waves. So as I go to Sri Lanka, obviously went to the south, we saw some amazing beaches, and I could see those big, amazing waves. And I gotta tell you, part of me wanted to jump in and surf, but there was this weird part of me that basically held me back. And the funny thing is that I had experience with surfing. I love surfing. That was one of the reasons why I chose to go to Sri Lanka. But instead of getting aboard and jumping in, I kept rationalizing. I said to myself, well, but we gotta film. I don't have enough time. I have that other meetup later. Waves are not that good now. And I would basically rationalize. The next day, I go back to the beach. I would do the same thing. You know what? There's no point of getting aboard now because, we have to have lunch and this and that, blah, 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 making excuses all the time. And then at some point, I realized what I was doing. I was basically making excuses because I was damn afraid to jump into that water. Now, why is that? Well, I hadn't surfed for a while, so it would be a fresh experience. And if you surf, you know how it is. You may know how to do it, but every time you have a break, you kind of need a few hours to get back on track. But that means getting wiped out. And when the waves are more than 2 meters, getting wiped out is definitely not the nicest experience ever. In fact, it can be very scary with, strong rip currents it kind of get pretty dodgy, right? Kind of get very scary. So I would rationalize and rationalize. And eventually, when I realized what I was doing, I decided, you know what, it's one of those things. I'm afraid. I acknowledged it. Okay, self-awareness. Remember, self-awareness is the key. So I realized what was happening, and I decided that I'm going to push myself on a smaller beach with smaller waves. So I took a board, I went on that beach, I jumped into the water, and it felt strange. I could see different sets coming in. I started paddling towards the breaking waves, and I could feel my heart beating, and it felt really strange. But at some point, I took off on one of the waves, wasn't the biggest one, and initially I felt some anxiety, but after I started riding the wave, that feeling was back, okay? I realized why I love surfing. I felt amazing. All that fear and anxiety was gone, and something else took its place. And this excitement and exhilaration and feeling of being truly alive, the feeling of adventure. And I kept riding those waves. And the funny thing is that later on, I started riding bigger and bigger waves. And every time I would think to myself, I hope that a bigger set of waves will come, so I will actually get that feeling of adrenaline. But how crazy is that, right? Imagine me riding some waves, waiting for even bigger ones to come, but a few hours before I was sitting on the beach, scared like a little child, not being able to get into the water. Well, it's all about pushing that comfort zone. Whenever you push it, it expands. But the weird thing about comfort zone is that you have to keep pushing it day after day. You can't just do something crazy and dangerous and risky one time, push your comfort zone, and then figure, okay, I'm done. For the rest of my life, I'm not going to be afraid of it. You know, you get on a stage, you give a presentation, and then you don't do it for 5 years, assuming, well, I delivered a great speech, I can do it anytime. No, it doesn't work like this. You got to practice, you got to constantly condition yourself, you got to constantly push your comfort zone. So let's say this is your comfort zone, right? Whenever you do something outside of your comfort zone, not too far, of course, because if you do something too far out of your comfort zone, you may just get some type of trauma, right? So you want to go step by step. But if you do something just here outside of your comfort zone, it's going to expand. It's going to expand and expand further and further and further. But the moment you take a break from pushing yourself, your comfort zone gradually starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's why I always say in my videos that it's important to take action, not just once or twice, but regularly. And instead of running away from that feeling of fear, it's important to understand that on the other side of fear are some of the best things that can happen in your life. So never forget about it. Whenever you feel afraid, whenever you have those moments of self-doubt, when you feel like, damn, I just can't do it, I feel too much fear, too much pressure, realize that this is necessary, okay? And if you push yourself, all of those feelings will disappear and something much more beautiful will take its place. In this video, I would like to talk to you about something that's really, really fascinating, namely the radical honesty. Now, when you think about it, when you talk to very confident people, they are not afraid to be honest with you. They are not afraid to be radically honest with you. They simply say what they think. They are not constantly judging, what that person will think about me. What should I say to be liked by that person or those individuals? No, they just say what they feel like. And sometimes it may be harsh, right? But people respect them because they know that they can trust them, right? So I've been reading a lot about it, and I've been thinking a lot about being radically honest, because I like to consider myself as one of those people who never filter themselves, right? So whenever someone asks me something, hey, how do you like my dress? I would say something like, should I be very honest with you? Yes, well, probably is not the best for you. I think you could wear something else. I would literally always say how I see the situation without trying to go around the bush. Even when I meet high-level people, the way I see it, if they can't take my honesty, well, probably they're not the right people for me. But lately, I've been reading more and more about it, and I've been, going into more and more extreme when it comes to this topic, and I realized that perhaps it makes sense to be totally radically honest about literally everything, even those small white lies. When a friend asks you, for example, hey, do you think I'm in the form for the summer? How do I look like? Do I look okay? And when you see that your friend is overweight, well, perhaps you have this natural instinct to say, you know what, it's not bad, it's all right, you're ready. But when you really think about it, you may be making a disservice to your friend by saying that, by making that white lie. Perhaps it's better to say, look, John, sit down for a moment. If you ask me honestly, you could lose 5 to 7 kilograms. I could help you to do it, or I know someone, but you should take care of yourself, right? Actually, Sam Harris, who wrote an amazing book called Lying, is talking about those types of situations. So I have my laptop here. Let me actually bring it up, and I'm going to read it to you because it's really fascinating. By the way, an amazing book, Lying by Sam Harris. I highly recommend you read it. It's a short read. It's like, I think, 100 pages. But he says, by lying, we deny others a view of the world as it is. Our dishonesty not only influences the choices they make, it often determines the choices they can make, and in ways we cannot always predict. Every lie is a direct assault upon the autonomy of those we lie to. Makes sense, right? And then he says, when we presume to lie for the benefits of others, we have decided that we are the best judges of how much they should understand about their own lives, about how they appear, their reputations, or their prospects in the world. So this is really interesting, what he says. And my example actually is quite connected to this. You know, the example of a friend asking you, look, do I look good enough for the summer? Do I need to lose some weight? Because as Sam said, well, if you make that white lie to make your friend feel better, he may feel better in short term, but in long term, you are making him or her a huge disservice because you kind of deprive them on this opportunity to realize, wow, this is where I am, I got to take care of myself, right? So it makes sense. So anyway, so in general, being radically honest can be really beneficial in terms of, you know, relationships overall. But there is one more thing. When you are radically honest, when you tell people how you feel, there's less to remember. When you lie, even when you make those small lies, when you don't want to say to someone that you can't attend that dinner with them because you simply don't want to, because you prefer to read a book, but instead you create some type of fake reason, then you have to remember about it. And of course, that increases your level of stress, and the more stressed you are, the less confident you feel. So imagine walking through the world knowing that there's nothing to remember. You just have to be yourself because you always say the way things are. So it makes a lot of sense, right? Also, another thing is when people ask you whether you want to do something with them, whether it's, you know, embracing some business opportunity or joining them for dinner or going for lunch together or going for a trip or whatever it is, whenever you are honest, you make people trust you more. And you make people respect you more. For example, myself, I hate situations when I talk to someone and let's say I'm organizing a dinner party and I ask that person, hey, would you like to join? It's on Friday, 8 p.m., this place. And they say, well, you know, yeah, maybe. Let me figure this out. I know already. I know straight away they want to say no. But I also know they don't have the guts to say no. So in my mind, in my eyes, their level of status and confidence and all of those things, it starts dropping down because I see that they just can't tell me straight into my face that they don't want to do something. They just can't say no. They don't know how to say no. On the other hand, when I talk to people and, you know, when they tell me, look, Jimmy, I'd love to join your dinner, but quite frankly, I have many things on my plate. I want to focus on something else. That evening, I appreciate the offer though, thank you so much. I respect that, that's amazing, you know? And that's what confident people do. So think about this concept and let me know if you have any questions or any food for thought. Perhaps I can learn something from you. I'm really curious to hear from you, what you think about it. But personally, the more I learn about this concept and the more I implement it, the more I realize that it really pays to be radically honest with people. Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be talking to you about one of the biggest misconceptions people have about happiness. And I'd like to explain to you a really interesting concept called the hedonic adaptation. So have you ever had a situation when you had certain goal, certain dream, right? Whether it's buying a house, going on that exotic holiday, maybe getting a promotion, setting up a business, making certain amounts of money. And deep inside you felt like, you know what? If I accomplish that goal, I'm gonna feel truly happy and it's gonna last. And the next thing you know, you end up getting there, you feel really exhilarated, you feel excited, but at some point you realize that your level of happiness is kind of gravitating back to what it used to be, all right? So that big house you managed to buy becomes your new normal. You were driving maybe some old car, now you got a Ferrari, and it felt great for the first couple of weeks, but now it becomes normal. You don't feel so excited anymore, but it's your normality, and you want more and more and more. And basically, you know, this is something that the concept of hedonic adaptation explains very well, because as humans, we have certain baseline of happiness, okay? So let's say that your happiness is here. This is your baseline level of happiness. If something really good happens to you, obviously you're gonna increase your level of happiness, but then after the event, you will gradually gravitate back towards this baseline. Now, similarly, if something really bad happens to you, for example, I don't know, you get sick, you break your leg, you lose a family member, you lose your job, you lose a bunch of money, whatever it is, right? In the moment, it may feel like the end of the world. So you drop here, right? You feel like, oh wow, it's never gonna be the same, I'm never gonna feel happy again. And what happens after a few weeks or after a few months? Well, you gradually drift back to the same baseline level of happiness. Now, I find this concept really fascinating because, you know, many people don't get it, and because of that, they end up wasting so much of their lives chasing certain goal that they believe will make them happy forever. But that's not the case. Now, I have a goal setting course, I believe in setting goals, but I also believe in trying to derive as much pleasure and happiness while you're on your journey from what you are doing on a daily basis, all right? It's not just about that big goal you want to accomplish, but it's about enjoying the present moment. So many people make a mistake of feeling that if they only sacrifice some of the best years of their lives on working really hard trying to accomplish certain goal, and by the way, it's usually the financial goal, they feel like when they get to that holy grail, they will be happy. But it doesn't work like that. You know, happiness is cyclical. And actually Freud used to say, very, very interesting, he said, happiness comes from contrast. Now, if you ever had a cold shower after a hot day on the beach, or maybe a hot bath after a very cold day in the mountains, then you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, you need contrast to appreciate certain things in life. When you are on the bus and you're starving and the bus will not stop for the next 7 hours, and then eventually you get back home and you get that sandwich, probably that sandwich will taste better than even the most delicious meal in a restaurant. And the reason is that you were hungry, you felt that pain, you experienced the contrast, and now you can really appreciate that basic sandwich. So the same thing applies to so many different realms of life. Now, how can you use this concept to make yourself more happy and to increase your baseline of happiness? Well, I think that one of the coolest things, one of the easiest things to do actually, is to toughen up a little bit, all right? Now, this is a Stoic concept. I really believe in Stoicism. And basically, Stoics used to say that it's not about what happens to you, but it's about what you make out of what happens to you. So it's never about the circumstances, but it's always about your response to the circumstances, right? So let's say that you lost your job, you can say to yourself, oh wow, my life is over, this is the end. Or you can pause and reflect and say to yourself, wait a second, this is how I feel in the moment, it's natural, but what are the benefits of this? Well, perhaps there are some hidden opportunities that I will be able to embrace as a result of this, all right? Now, for example, back in the day, I was broke, and I used to think, oh, this is so bad, this is so unfair, I'm broke. You know what? I'm very happy that I had that situation, because right now, I not only appreciate everything I have, all the money I make, but also I know that if I lost everything, I wouldn't mind. Yes, for the first week, I would feel bad, but then afterwards, I wouldn't mind. I would just kind of, you know, feel content again because I've been there before. So I believe in the concept of toughening yourself up. So engineering certain situations that will make you feel uncomfortable on purpose, all right? It may seem a bit strange, so let me explain a little bit further. I remember back in the day, I had a situation where I was traveling around Southeast Asia, and one morning I woke up in a 5-star hotel. I went to the balcony, I looked at the beautiful view of Bangkok, And I said to myself, wow, I have everything I always wanted to have in my life. I'm making a lot of money. I have total freedom. My videos are selling like, fresh pastries. Life is going well. But I didn't feel truly happy. I realized that I felt miserable. And the question is, how come that you can have everything you always wanted to have and you feel miserable? And the answer was very simple, and it took me some time to arrive at the answer, at the solution. But I basically realized that because I've been, I had so much stimuli in my life, and I got all of those things I always wanted to have. I got used to them, and I stopped appreciating them, all right? I didn't have any contrast in my life. When you go to a 5-star hotel all the time, you don't appreciate it anymore. When you have delicious meals, 5 times a day, you stop thinking about the food. You stop feeling that gratitude. Oh my God, it's so awesome that I can eat this delicious meal. You stop thinking about it. I mean, how often do you stop and ponder, wow, I'm so grateful that I have a comfortable bed? So it's quite interesting, we don't think about happiness in this way. But what I realized back in Thailand was that sometimes it makes sense to purposely push yourself to experience less, to go through some pain in life, to toughen yourself up, because that's when you create that contrast that will allow you to appreciate more and to increase that baseline level of happiness. So for example, even right now, I'm here filming in Poland with my movie crew. It's amazing. I feel grateful for this. But I also thought about going to Ibiza to party. I had an offer to go to Bali. I would be surfing there, having a great time. But then I realized, you know what? Perhaps now is the time to sit here, spend some time with my family, enjoy those times, and appreciate this minimalism. Not going anywhere, not flying anywhere, just focusing on getting work done, living in the same place, eating the same meals every day. So then 1 or 2 months from now, when I go to that exotic location, I'm gonna appreciate it so much more, okay? So happiness can be hacked. And once again, everyone has this baseline level of happiness, but I believe that it can be hacked. All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. To be totally honest, I just went with the flow. I didn't plan it. There are no bullet points, but I really find this concept fascinating. So it wasn't in the agenda for today. When we sat down here, I looked around, beautiful views. Where we are in the forest. It's totally quiet, just peace and nature. And I started thinking about this concept of hedonic adaptation, of the fact that happiness comes from contrast, that it's cyclical, that there is not just one thing, one event that will increase your level of happiness forever. And I want to talk to you about it because I really believe that understanding this concept and implementing it in your everyday life can really make a difference. So as I said, I had situations back in my life when I stopped appreciating certain things, right? So I believe that there are 2 main takeaways. First of all, you gotta realize that happiness is cyclical, right? So instead of focusing on one big goal, focus on the journey as well. Make sure that you enjoy the journey because there is not one thing that can possibly make you happy forever. It's normal and expected that you will go through ups and downs. So that's the first takeaway. And the second one is, I believe in purposely pushing yourself, to experience a little bit less in order to appreciate more, okay? That's one of my favorite hacks actually, and it's not easy, but it's very useful. So for example, when I go to Thailand, I like to attend Muay Thai camps, Thai boxing camps. And they are really difficult. And when I think about all that pain I'm gonna go through, I almost don't wanna go there. But you see, I still push myself to attend those camps and train twice a day and feel that pain because I know that when I get through that, I'm not gonna only become a better person and be more fit and have better skills, but also when I come out of that experience, I'm gonna appreciate everything so much more, all right? So apply it in your life. Also post a comment, post a discussion. Let me know what you think. I would really like to hear from you. All right, this is it, and I would like to wish you an amazing day. Hey, my YouTube subscribers, I hope that you are doing really, really well. And I'm making this video for you to talk a little bit about self-awareness. Now, I believe that self-awareness is extremely important, especially when you want to improve yourself. So I talk to many people who tell me, look, Jimmy, I want to improve my confidence. I want to build my self-esteem.
I want to become more productive, and they want to improve all of those different areas of their lives. But what I realize very often is that they are not self-aware. They don't even know where they are right now in this present moment. So I feel like it's important to gain fresh perspective, right? To zoom out of your life and then just look at yourself and objectively ask yourself, where am I now? What's the current situation? Because only when you have that knowledge, it's easier for you to figure out the action steps. So in a second, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Actually, I prepared 10 really important questions. And I believe that when you start answering them for yourself, when you really ponder, about those questions, you will get a lot of clarity about who you are as a person, and your self-awareness will grow. Rick, can you pass me my laptop for a moment? Awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So by the way, those questions, I'm going to read them out. Feel free to jot them down. And then what I would say is trust your gut feeling, right? So when you're reading the question, instead of having this temptation to create a perfect answer, simply listen to your intuition and jot down whatever comes to your mind. And look, the reason I'm saying this is because many people, they look at those questions thinking, wow, that's a big question. I need some time to really ponder about it. And then they keep waiting, and they are waiting for some spark of inspiration. The way I see it, instead of waiting for the inspiration, you gotta trigger the inspiration, right? So often what happens is people procrastinate and they end up, not doing anything. So we both know that someday and one day never come. So instead of waiting for the perfect moment, I'd say just take 10 minutes and just start writing down the answers to those questions. All right, so the first question, if the doctors told me that I have only 6 months to live, how would I change the way I live my life? Now, this is a really important question because very often we assume that we will live forever. And even though intellectually we know that we won't live forever, it's easy to make that assumption on a day-to-day basis. You wake up in the morning and you usually don't think, well, today could be the day. Today could be the day I'm gonna die. We don't think about it, but I feel like sometimes it's important to remind yourself that you are essentially dying already, 1 minute at a time, right? Your life is getting shorter and shorter. You can't predict what's gonna happen, so you should live your life to the fullest. When you ask yourself this question, some interesting answers may come up that make you realize that, wait a second, maybe I'm not living the life I should be living. Perhaps I have to change a few things about my life to be truly happy. The second question, what exciting challenge would I love to pursue if there was no risk of failure or embarrassment? Now again, this gives you a lot of clarity because very often we have some big dreams deep inside, right? We want to accomplish something massive, whether it's climbing some type of mountain, or maybe you always wanted to travel across Africa or South America, but for some reason you would always postpone it, right? You would always, have this inner voice telling you, you know what? Yeah, it's risky, and don't worry, there is enough time. You can do it sometime in the future. But once again, we both know that very often, someday and one day never come. So when you answer this question, you may realize that, wait a second, there are certain dreams that I have, and unless I do something about them right now, I may never accomplish them. Third question, what is my definition of success? Now, this is super important because in this society, unfortunately, we very often link success to financial success, right? So if you make a lot of money, if you set up a business that makes a killing, then you feel like you are successful. But there are many other areas of life, whether it's relationships, whether it's health, this self-fulfillment that comes from you pursuing your passions. There's so many other elements in this life. So you got to define your own definition of success. I mean, there's no point of listening to other people. Instead, you have to define what it is for you, because this way it's easier for you to design the life that will bring you a lot of success according to your definition. All right, question number 4. What frustrates me about myself? Now, this one is tricky. Nobody really wants to work with this question. It's tough, right? I mean, it's tough to sit down and truthfully ask yourself, what is frustrating me about myself? Because then you make an assumption that you're not perfect, right? And it's very hard to acknowledge your weaknesses, but it's super important if you want to be truly self-aware. All right, another question. What is currently worrying me? Can I do anything about it? And if yes, what is preventing me from taking action? Now, this is super important because there are many things in life that worry us, and when you worry too much, it's really not good for your health, both physical and mental. And often we just keep going with the flow and we assume, well, this is the way the life is supposed to be. But very rarely we take the time to sit down and just ponder and analyze what is really worrying me and can I do anything about it? And very often when you take the time to think about it, you may come up with some solutions. I'm talking about clear, actionable solutions where you can do something to change that state of affairs. All right? Very important question. Okay, the sixth one. What activities do I engage in to escape reality? All right? So we all get stressed from time to time. We all have those moments when you wake up in the morning and you just don't feel like leaving the bed, right? You feel terrible. And when reality is too hard to manage, to handle, right? Maybe your business is not working well. Maybe your boss is being an asshole to you, right? Maybe you have some really bad situation in your relationships. Whatever it is, it's very easy to try to escape that reality and engage in counterproductive and sometimes destructive behavior, right? Whether it's, I don't know, chain smoking or drinking too much or gambling or whatever it is. So I feel like it's important to just truthfully ask yourself, okay, when those situations happen, when I lose control, when I want to escape reality, what vices do I engage in, right? And nobody is perfect, so I feel like it's totally fine to go through this question and just be honest with yourself. All right, the next question. What were the biggest turning points in my life? So very often as humans, we walk through the world, we kind of, look around and we overestimate other people and underestimate ourselves. And you gotta ask yourself, when was the last time when you really looked at your life thinking, it was a crazy journey. I've done many things that seemed impossible back in the day. And very rarely we take the time to ponder about those things, those turning points, those breakthroughs we had in our lives. But I feel like it's really important, especially for your confidence and self-esteem. Because when you take some time to think about all of those amazing things you've done, right? All those turning points, it makes you realize that, wait a second, I am more powerful than I thought. I have more control than sometimes I believe I have, right? Super important. And by the way, before I forget, if you want to learn more about building confidence, building self-esteem, creating a strong identity, click on the link below this video. I have a free course for you. You're gonna love it, all right? Cool. Next question. What are some of the things on my to-do list I never get to because of some type of fear or limiting belief, right? And why is that? And I encourage you to go deeper. And very often what happens is we have our to-do list, right? We have a bunch of items. And then when you really analyze your to-do list, you may realize that some of the things have been lingering there for months, if not for years. I mean, no kidding. Sometimes, some people have certain things on their to-do lists that have been there for years and years and years. And instead of just accepting that this is the way it is, I feel like it's super important to look at it and realize, wait a second, this one thing has been here for way too long. Why is that? Maybe it's not that important, in which case I should just get rid of it. But maybe it's really stressing me out. Why is it stressing me out? Why am I so afraid to do that one thing? And then you go deeper and deeper and deeper, right? And you get to know yourself. And thanks to that clarity, it's easier for you to figure out how to summon that courage and confidence to push through that and actually get it done, right? Super important. Now, another question that's really crucial. Do I always say what is really on my mind? And if the answer is no, why not? Why not? Why do you have situations when you think certain things, but you are afraid to verbalize them, right? You're with a group of friends and you feel like you want to say something, but then you hold back. You decide not to do it. Why is that? What is holding you back? Is it some type of fear? Maybe fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of, not being like everyone else? The fear of being different, being alienated, whatever it is, just think about it. Think about those situations you had and just go deep and analyze yourself and, in the context of those situations. And I can guarantee you that, when you get that awareness of what's happening and why it's happening, then you will have more control when those situations happen in the future. And the last question, how often do I help others and how often do I ask for help from other people? Now, this is something I can relate to quite a lot, right? Because I have this problem and I still have it. I've been working on it for many years, but to be totally vulnerable with you, I still have this issue where I just find it difficult to ask for help. And very often in the past, people would walk up to me and tell me, hey, how can I help you? And my first response, don't worry about it. I can do it. It's okay. I can do it myself. But at the same time, I would always try to help other people. Hey, how can I help you? Hey, I have to connect you with my other friend. He has this business and maybe you can do something together. I would always try to find those different ways I can help others, but I found it difficult to accept help from other people. And then over the years, I realized that if I don't accept help from other people, I essentially deprive them of the opportunity to help me, right? So it's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. In many cases, it's a bad thing. And because I've been, asking myself this question, going deeper and sitting by myself in a room for hours at a time, just pondering about it and journaling about this particular topic, I realized that I have to manage it in a bit different way. So nowadays when somebody comes up to me and they say, listen, I want to help you. I think I can help you with this area of your life. Instead of having that gut response of, don't worry, I don't need your help, I'm going to pause. I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to say, you know what? Why not? I appreciate it. Yeah, let's talk about it. I would really appreciate your help. And I try to push myself to accept that help from other people. Now, your situation may be different, right? Maybe your problem is the opposite. Maybe you're not that much focused on contribution and maybe you're getting a lot of help from other people. And perhaps answering this question make you realize, wait a second, I'm not contributing as much as I want to. Why is that? Maybe deep inside I don't feel like I'm good enough to contribute to other people. This could be one of the answers. So anyway, many things we could talk about. I could literally make this video into 1 hour. But as I said, if you want to find out more, click on the link. There's a free course where we talk for 1.5, 2 hours about all of those topics related to confidence, building self-esteem, creating this powerful identity, destroying limiting beliefs, etc. So there's no risk. The course is for free. Let me know what you think. Post comments underneath this video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And by the way, take action. Don't just listen to this video, okay? Please take a piece of paper, answer those questions for yourselves, and you will see that you will gain so much more self-awareness. Right, guys? Have a great day, and I'm gonna see you soon. Hey guys, so in this video, I would like to talk to you a little bit about the stories we keep telling ourselves. And this is a very important topic because very often we have certain limiting beliefs, right? For example, you may believe that you are not a good presenter, or you may believe that you are not good socially, or perhaps you may have this limiting belief that you are simply not good at sports. What we don't realize is that very often those beliefs come from that bullshit story we keep telling ourselves based on one event that happened to us back in the day, many years ago. So instead of delving into it, let me give you an example, a very simple example that I feel like many people can relate to. Imagine you're 12 years old, you are in a classroom, and one of your teachers tells you, come to the front and read this chapter. And you're stressed out, you don't want to do it. And everyone is like looking at you and you feel the pressure building up and your heart is beating really fast and you start sweating. And you just want to be anywhere else, you just don't want to be here. But the teacher keeps talking to you. Hey, you, get to the front of the class. And you feel scared, you get to the front, all the pressure builds up, you open the book, and the words wouldn't come out. They just wouldn't come out, you feel paralyzed. And you have this kind of sound in your ears and you don't know what's happening, you feel like you're gonna pass out, everyone is laughing, people are pointing fingers at you, you feel terrible. The next thing you know, you just run away, you sit back at the desk or maybe you run out of the room, and that's the story you have now. Now the problem with this is, as kids especially, we don't realize that this failure is actually not about us. It's just a bad situation that happened. We very often attach it to our identity, right? And we keep repeating the story in our brains where, you are actually running that negative story in your head thousands and thousands of times. And later on, anytime someone tells you about getting on a stage or getting in front of the class, you keep remembering that story that happened to you. You keep recalling all of those negative emotions. Now, guess what happens? Your brain finds it very difficult to distinguish between what's real and what is not real, right? So as long as you think about something and you put emotion into it, your brain will perceive it as something that actually happened. So if you're running that, negative story in your head thousands and thousands of times, what essentially is happening is your brain believes that you had that situation thousands of times. So it's natural that later on, when you are 25 years old or maybe even 45 years old, and you have to deliver a presentation on a stage, the moment you look at the stage, the moment you see the microphone, even the moment you think about the prospect of delivering some type of presentation in front of people, suddenly, bam, your brain goes back to that bullshit story from your childhood. You remember all those negative emotions and you feel like, oh, wow, I can't do it. I'm just not good at presenting. I'm not confident. I'm terrible at public speaking. This is not for me. I can't do it. And you feel paralyzed. But is it really true? I mean, think about it. Now you are a grown person, right? You are a totally different human being. You have knowledge, you have experiences, you have gifts you could share with the world, right? And for some reason, something keeps holding you back. Now, the problem is that most of us are not aware of that. So what I would like to encourage you in this video is to think about your limiting beliefs. Just think about things that are holding you back. And look, it could be public speaking, it could be something else. Everyone has a different situation, but think about those things, face them, and then try to backtrack and ask yourself, is this real? Or is it just that bullshit story I keep telling myself? And this is super important because very often what you perceive to be one of your weaknesses is actually just a limiting belief, right? Let me give you a different example. Let's say that back at school, you really had trouble with swimming, right? For example, everybody else was swimming really well and you had some type of a problem with that. Now, because of that, you ended up not swimming because, of course, you didn't want to have all of those negative emotions associated with people just looking at you thinking, what is he or she doing? They just can't swim, right? So you stopped. And now that limiting belief is still in your brain and you keep saying to yourself, I'm just not good at sports. The reality is that, of course, you won't be good at sports right now because by assuming that you're not good at it, you're not taking any action. And if you're not taking any action, how can you expect any positive results? What happens is you assume that you're not good at something, right? In this case, at sports. You don't take any action. Therefore, there is no result. You look at this and you think to yourself, well, I'm not getting any results anyway. I'm still skinny. I'm unhealthy. So you, again, reinforce the belief, I would say the limiting belief, the misconception that you are not good at sports, and you realize I can't do anything about it. So again, you don't do anything about it. And this weird vicious circle just continues. Instead of doing that, once you acknowledge that that limiting belief comes from that bullshit story you've been telling yourself, you can break the pattern and you can say to yourself, you know what? It won't be very comfortable, but let me do something about it. Let me start step by step. Let me push my comfort zone a little bit and practice and see what happens. And then another circle happens. You start practicing, you see the result. You see the result, you realize, wait a second, maybe that was a limiting belief. Maybe I can get good at sports. So you train even more because you get motivated. You see more results. You see the results. Wow, I see the results. I feel amazing. You train even more. The next thing you know, the upward spiral begins. But all of it starts with self-awareness, right? All of it starts with recognizing that all of us have those disempowering stories that unfortunately govern many areas of our lives. So I really encourage you to just sit down for some time, just close your eyes and think about those limiting beliefs you have. Ask yourself, is it truly my limitation, or is it just something that came out of that really negative, disempowering story I kept telling myself, and then make a conscious decision that you will work on that. Now, just to add one quick bonus to this, I told you before that your brain finds it very difficult to distinguish between things that really happened and things you visualized in your brain. Well, you can use it to your advantage, and instead of thinking about all of those negative things, you can visualize success. Look, you may think that it sounds cheesy, right? Visualization, but it actually works. So when you sit down, and if you have one of those limiting beliefs that you are not a good public speaker, but instead of embracing that limiting belief, you close your eyes and you envision getting on a stage and delivering an amazing, valuable presentation. People stand up and they're clapping and you feel all of that positive energy. If you do it many, many times, your brain will start feeling as if it actually happened. And I can guarantee you that you will get a little bit more confidence. Now, will it be cure-all? Will it change everything? Of course not, right? But it's going to give you some type of progress. Same thing goes when it comes to physical fitness or anything else, right? If you visualize yourself actually going to that gym or going for that run and actually making it happen, right? Creating some type of progress, then it's going to become more real in your mind and you'll be more likely to summon that courage and motivation to actually push yourself. Anyway, let me know what you think, post a comment, and I'm going to see you in the next video.
Hey guys, so in this video we would like to talk to you about that tough guy or tough woman mentality, because many people have a misconception about what confidence really is, what being tough really means. Now, when you think about it, many people engage in different conflicts and they don't know how to stop escalating. They don't know how to back off. And the reason is that very often, when you have low self-esteem and when you have insecurities yourself, the moment someone engages with you and the moment someone triggers some type of conflict or says something about you, offends you, you feel that your ego has been shattered and you feel like you have to do something to prove to them that you are better than they think you are. And think about it for a second. Have you ever had a situation like this? Have you ever had a situation when you had a conflict with someone and you really tried to prove to that person that you are better, that you are good enough? And when you analyze it, you realize that it comes from insecurity, because if you truly believe in yourself, right, if you have true confidence, you don't have to prove anything to anyone, especially not some asshole who's trying to pick up a fight with you or who is offending you, right? So there are many different stories that would portray this, and I had those situations myself, but I believe that Ilya's story is very powerful because, he's a professional fighter. He knows how to do it, and it would be very easy for him to go to a bar and pick up fights with people. Whenever someone offends him, it's very easy for him just to go and punch them in the face, but he doesn't do it. And the reason is that he doesn't allow people to pull him into their frame, right? He stays calm because he's confident and he knows who he is. So, Ilya, why don't you share your story? Why don't you talk to us about your childhood and, what happened in your life, how you managed to change yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. So growing up, I was a very shy and insecure kid. I was very, very skinny. I thought my arms were too small. I thought my ears were too big. And always walking around with a sense of low self-esteem. Now, growing up, I always liked fighting. And going out, as a teenager, without social skills, you go to places, you don't feel right, you don't really connect to people. I used to resort to violence. And I did many things that I'm not proud of in my past. And people that really know me know all these stories. And what I used to do is take people down and being violent with people, and in that way, I felt good about myself. I felt strong, I felt powerful, and I felt confident. Now, as my life continued, I picked up Muay Thai, and I started training, and I started fighting and winning fights, traveling the world afterwards. My confidence grew, my self-esteem grew, and I realized that all those years, the reason I was fighting on the streets and being aggressive and violent, that came from a place of weakness, because I wanted to feel better, I wanted to feel stronger. So now, when I go and I meet those kind of people, I can immediately see myself 10 years ago, when I was that guy that wanted to feel better, stronger than other people, just to feed my ego and feel better about myself. So now, when you meet that kind of person, and he's in your face, he wants to feed his ego. And the reason he does that is because he's weak. Maybe you have a problem with self-esteem, maybe you have bad history. So by me reacting to what he does and dragging me to his frame and to his ways, that only makes me a weak person because I cannot control myself. So the way I handle them is, first of all, I stay calm. I don't let them drag me into that frame. If he said something offensive, I said something indifferent back to him. Maybe even make a joke. Maybe even tell him something nice. That's the best way. If you bring kindness into somebody aggressive and you calm him down and you make him your friend, maybe not a friend, but a buddy, you earn their respect. And they'll respect you because they know that they're the weaker person and you're the bigger man.
Wow, amazing points, some great points there. So it's all about controlling your frame, and the reason we are making this video, we are talking about it quite a lot. It's very powerful, and most people struggle with it. I used to struggle with it myself, but once you realize that when you truly respect yourself, you wouldn't allow anybody's opinion to affect your behavior, that's when you start winning, right? So whenever you have a situation of conflict, whenever someone is trying to pull you into that negative frame, right, into that negative conflict, remember about this concept and do your best to change the situation and pull them into your frame.
He will respect you more because he will know that you're the bigger person and he is the smaller man.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And there's one more thing I would like to mention, and I believe it's very, very important. When you're watching those videos, don't simply watch them and just move on to the next one. Instead, take some time to really reflect about those concepts in the context of your own life, all right? Because I'm sure that you had situations in your life where this principle applied. So you either got pulled into somebody else's frame, or you managed to pull them into your frame. And perhaps you never really thought about the dynamics of those situations, but after watching this video, take a moment, take a few minutes to analyze different conflicts you had in the past. Maybe something as small as arguing with your flatmates about, who would wash the dishes next time. Or perhaps something more serious like getting into verbal argument in a bar, whatever it is. Think about those situations and ask yourself, if I could go back in time and handle myself in a better way using those principles, what would I do? Because when you really analyze those situations like this, that's gonna, empower you to do the right thing when you face those challenges in the future.
Hi everyone, I'm making this video just to say thank you so much for all your time and thank you for taking this course. I mean, if you're watching this video, it means that you watched every single lecture and I truly appreciate your time and your trust in my content. Now I'm curious to hear what you think about this course. If you haven't left a review, please go ahead, let me know what you think. I really, really hope that you enjoyed it and you got a lot of value out of this course. If you have any feedback, of course, let me know.